Happy game day eve, Sooner Nation. Welcome to the Sooner Surge. If you are not part of what's happening, make sure you have subscribed, or you do subscribe. You turn on your notifications, you like and comment. Uh, Big one tomorrow at 11 o'clock, Sooners versus the Jayhawks on Fox. And if you go to the Sooner Sports website, you will see the game notes for this matchup. And specifically, if you scroll down, you will see the depth chart for tomorrow. And there are a few changes on there that we want to make sure we note right now. So let's get right into it, guys. Maybe something that stands out on one of those kind of three changes there, guys.
Yeah, I'll start it off with a name I did not expect to see. Did not expect to see him on the field at all last week. We saw him for at least one play. Not sure if he was out there for every special teams play, but I remember watching him run onto the field after Caleb Schaefer got hurt for the extra point. That's McCade Matoyer. Went down, senior right guard, went down in the Texas game. Fortunate that it was only an ankle sprain for him. And it was said that he would be back in a few weeks, but no one expected it, even with that being said, because it was all, oh, we're so fortunate for him to it not be a season-ending injury. And he's now listed as the starter this week, according to the depth chart that was put out this week by Sooner Sports. So very shocked to see that. McCade Matoyer, really going to need him if that's the case, with looking at this possible weather forecast as a little bit over 12 hours away, almost 12 hours away from kickoff in Lawrence tomorrow. And there's still a chance of rain towards the end of the game.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll see if he actually does start. I mean, that's great news that he's listed as one on the depth chart, because if he is back, and I think a lot of people forget, because he only missed one game. It seems like because of the bye week, that fell at a great time, because I think people are saying, whoa, he's already back. It's only been one game, but he's had almost 3 weeks off, really, if you count the in between the games. So, but what that would do to this offense, it would be the best offensive line unit that they have, because you got Caden Green kind of solidified that left guard spot, and then you've got Metallier on the right guard, along with Guyton, I don't know if you saw, but a lot of people projected him first-round pick. I mean,
ESPN just did this week, Jay. I saw a mock draft where he was late first round to the Dolphins.
Yeah, three pressures all year is all he's allowed. I mean, the guy's had a great year. That would be great for this offensive line unit. And you look at the back half of their schedule here, if he is back and he's healthy and he can play, maybe they get that run game going.
I know that I said previously earlier this week that I would be shocked if he was playing a whole lot tomorrow. And I'm still going to say that I'm going to be shocked if he plays 90% of the time. But you are right. You make a good point about the bye week, that really he has had 3 weeks off for a high ankle sprain. That's doable, especially the treatment that these guys get these days. So maybe it is something he can go, half this game, or maybe even more. Maybe he's all 100% healed up. I just find that very tough. But that is great news with McCade Matoyer there. One of the other notes I think that you got to bring up is the running back room, and that's because Tolly Walker is back. We know that, but he is back, and he's at the bottom of the depth chart, even listed, guys, below Javonte Barnes.
It's an or with Javonte Barnes. Really shocked by that, because going into the UCF game and that depth chart published, it was Javonte Barnes and Gavin Sawchuk or at the bottom, and then Tawee Walker or Marcus Major at the top. Again, that was not right at all. Tawee Walker did not play. Marcus Major was banged up with that shoulder injury. Gavin Sawchuk ended up being the starter. This week, Gavin Sawchuk is at the top with an or with Marcus Major. And then you have Javonte Barnes or Tawee Walker rounding out that running back room.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not shocked by this. I think I hinted at it earlier on in the video this week about how I think going forward through the rest of the year, you're going to see more Barnes and Sawchuk than you have earlier this year. And listen, Walker's played great, and I would love to see Walker out there, but I just think I kind of feel like if it was an in-house suspension, they're going to make him work his way back and really show that he's ready to go, you know?
Maybe so. I personally, for this game, looking at the weather forecast, if it ends up being a downpour of rain and mid 40s of a high, you're going to have to run the football. I think Tawee Walker has been the best at it all year of just pure pounding yardage, him and Marcus Major. And Gavin Sawchuk looked really good in the fourth quarter last week.
Yeah.
It's just, I am shocked by that. Again, like you said, I think it's that week by week basis in practice.
Well,
has high standards for this running back room.
And I will say this depth chart weekly that they put out has not always been the go-to when the game starts. I mean, there's sometimes it looks like it's going to be something else, and that doesn't happen. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. You also know things change between when it's put out and game day. We know that that's the case. Even look at last week. But I would say just one note to make on the running back. And I don't want to overhype the weather because both teams are playing in it. And I don't think OU is going to come out and just be 80% run the ball. Now, what I do think we got to keep an eye on, guys, and I've been harping this all year, OU has been phenomenal in ball security. If you are to bring maybe Barnes and Sawchuk getting most of the carries, it's something to keep an eye on because they haven't got a lot this year. And those other dudes have been very secure with the ball. I think that's something to note. And the other thing I would say is on pass protection, picking up the blitz.
Good point.
We know that the other two guys have been better. Now, I'm not saying these guys can't. I'm saying it's something to keep your eye on. Ball security, blitz pickup.
That's really interesting. You know, Sawchuk fumbled last week. Wasn't a turnover. We were fortunate on that. Then he had a dropped reception, and that was a 3-and-out, but really bounced back towards the end of the game. I mean, he iced it. That was a very heads-up play from Gavin Sawchuk. He's a redshirt freshman. Fact that he was able to break free and then not score because he wants to hesitate on scoring. He ended up scoring just to make sure that that's what they want him to do, because when the clock's ticking at that point, there's a lot of things that say, okay, maybe you should try to run a little more clock with how UCF was showing at times their ability to have those explosive plays. They had like that 86-yard touchdown pass. They had like a 57-yard rush earlier in the game. So Sawchuk having that heads-up play shows a lot of maturity there. And like Jerm mentioned, it's only been once this year that they were splitting carries. Those two. That was the Tulsa game, and it really wasn't that much. They did not run the football that much. Dylan Gabriel threw like 30 passes. Jackson Arnold threw quite a bit in that blowout in Tulsa.
Yeah, and I think there's one other thing that I may be wrong because I don't remember last week's off the top of my head. I know, Jay, you mentioned Cade McIntyre.
Yeah.
He is the third one on there. Was he the third one last week?
Who's listed as two? Blake Smith?
Blake Smith. It's this week it's Stogner, Blake Smith, Cade McIntyre, and then Fenoyle.
Yeah, McIntyre's third last week. He was an or. So a little
this
bit of
week he's not an or.
No, he's not. It's just straight.
They could hey, listen, they could really use his athleticism at tight end.
I would like to see Blake Smith more. That's just me.
But even Blake Smith, a guy that's not going to break many. McIntyre is a guy that after he catches the ball can make people miss and make plays. That's one thing we saw early in the year. Not very much because he didn't play a whole lot, but he's a guy that can do that. So we'll see. But you're going to need Stogner big time in the run game. You're going to need Stogner big time.
He looked a lot better last week. I will give him that. I think that was his best game to this point of the season last week against UCF. Kind of moving it back to the offensive line real quick, really back to right guard. Savion Byrd with an or, him and Caleb Schaefer behind McCade Matoyer. A little shocked by that. I figured that Savion Byrd locked up that 2 spot if McCade is to return to the lineup after last week, but it's still kind of a flip of a coin between the two.
I don't think they're going to give Savion Byrd a lock in anything all year because they're just from what we've heard about Beatenbow and I think they're always trying to constantly motivate that guy. And the only way to do it
last week, he looked really good last week. Really, really good.
Not many changes on the defensive side at all, if any. I think it is important to note Ethan Downs is listed as 1. So I think the injury we can we can trust he's back fully from that.
He's with an oar with Trace Ford, but I would expect it's been pretty much Ethan Downs all year getting that first rep. I would expect it to stay the same.
Yeah. No other major changes. Luke Elzinga listed as the
Officially
one.
starting,
Officially the starting punter. So.
And, I mean, you can't expect anything other than that. He averaged 51.6 yards per punt last week. Looked very, very good. I'm impressed because everyone knew coming into this year, you don't have Michael Turk. Like, to lose a punter that electric, that's a big deal. And Luke Elzinga last week looked like he can kind of fill that gap and start relieving pressure for both sides of the ball, offense and defense, with his ability to flip the field.
And no offense to Plaster. I mean, Plaster tried to cement his role, and no pun intended there with the cement, but he didn't really perform at a high level. So kudos to Luke Elzinga for taking that. But
Plaster's best punt of the year came on interference. That was shocking against Texas. I mean, he got smoked, and I mean, he drilled it. It was over 50 yards there after a rough start in the Red River Run.
And there you have it, guys. That is a depth chart preview for tomorrow. Make sure you can get that on Soonersports.com. Go to the OU Kansas game notes and reference that if you want to look at that and compare it to last week. Those are our observations. Be interesting if anything changes. If it does, we'll make sure we get it to you, that information. But the only way that you're going to hear that is to be subscribed to our channel so that you can be notified when we drop another video. Should be exciting. Game day tomorrow. Can't wait. Till next time, guys. Boomer.
Sooner.